The preseason hype is at a fever pitch, let's say in Eugene, and it's spreading across the country when people are talking preseason national championship picks. Oregon is right in that conversation, but guys have to go to camp. They actually have to lift weights and run and work and do all those good things before we can think about that. We got Spencer McLaughlin on the line, Locked On Ducks, Locked On College Football on the Locked On Network. Spencer, what's going on today?
Well, Oregon doesn't have a commit yet, but, you know, the day is young.
Exactly. Why don't we start there? My goodness. Number one wide receiver in the country, of course. He made his decision out of Texas. Then you've got Dorian Brew, one of the top cornerbacks in the country in recent days. Just all over the board, one of the best tight ends, one of the best running backs, two of those taken from Ohio State. When I say taken from Ohio State, basically those are the schools that it came down to, Ohio State and Oregon. And considering the conference realignment, that makes it even more intriguing. But this Oregon Dan Lanning recruiting surge is something else.
Yeah, he's on a heater right now and pulled in the best class in program history last cycle and is pushing, quite frankly, to beat that mark in this cycle. And when you look at, you know, the high school classes that the national champions have traditionally stacked up leading into a national championship season, that's the trajectory that Oregon is on. I mean, they're recruiting at a level that we have not seen them recruit at before. And I think that's one of the reasons that it's, you know, garnering so much well-deserved attention on the trail nationally is they are, you know, doing things that they've kind of showed glimpses of, but now they're just pulling these kids and they're getting Decorian Moore, which surprised me a little bit. I knew Oregon had a shot. I still thought it was going to be Texas. It was seen as, you know, a Texas lean, and he's from the state. And when he flipped from LSU, it was, oh yeah, he's going to Texas for Oregon to go in and get him out of Duncanville High School, which is a powerhouse over there. That's a wildly impressive pull. And I think this is just the standard that Lanning is setting on the trail, and along with his staff, that they are capable of going to get anybody from anywhere. They will recruit kids from Florida, from Texas, from California, from Maryland, from Detroit, from Ohio. I mean, Dorian Brew out of Ohio, Dallas Wilson out of Florida. They've got Cooper Perry out of Arizona, the number one receiver in the state. Decorian Moore, number one receiver in the class out of Texas. The geographical reach of Oregon, I think, continues to be really impressive. They aren't just dominating a couple of states. I think their brand has really elevated to the point where every big-time national recruit, if Oregon is an offer, it's more than just an afterthought for, you know, a big-time program that they're going to consider.
So, Spencer, you know what the critics are saying, because you're probably hearing it 10 times more than I am. They're dropping bags, and that's all they're doing.
Well, I mean,
that's certainly a component of the game, and that's
100%,
absolutely
100%. Last time I checked, that's allowed. It's legal to offer NIL deals. Number one. Number two, let's not pretend like Oregon is the only school in the country that has a flush NIL collective. They have a good one. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat that. If you talk to anyone that covers recruiting, though, Mark, they will tell you that for the overwhelming majority of these kids, NIL is a factor. It is not the factor. I think the narrative that Oregon just drops back, they just pay kids a bunch of money, no one actually likes going up there for anything, is mostly coming from frustrated fans on the internet of other teams that wanted particular kids. That's typically where it comes from. You see the same sort of narrative take place when a kid flips from your school and all of a sudden it's, oh, he wasn't that good anyway. You know, or he transfers out. Oh, no, he wasn't that special. He wasn't any good. Every guy that we have is great, and every guy that isn't a part of our program is just not any good and such. I think that is all pretty ridiculous for the most part, and I understand. You know, as Colin Cowherd always says, fan is short for fanatic, and fanatics go crazy for their team and such. But I think that if you look at the players Oregon's getting, it can't just be NIL. Texas doesn't have a poor NIL collective. Ohio State is not sure. Ohio State this offseason was, you know, taking shots across the bow from, I think it was Matt Rule, saying, or I don't know, he had a different comment. But anyway, there was a report that Ohio State spent like 18 to 20 million in NIL on this year's roster. Well, I don't see the narrative that Ohio State is just paying a bunch of kids. And even if they are, I'm sorry, they've got a more committed fan and donor base than you do. Sounds like you got to up the game. I mean, it's the Moneyball line delivered by Brad Pitt. Adapt or die. And Oregon is certainly adapting into the modern college football recruiting landscape in a really effective way. So I think the other thing to note is Oregon's having all this recruiting success in the NIL era. If there was no NIL, no one has presented to me any single piece of evidence that they wouldn't also be succeeding at this level. Because Mario Cristobal, remember, had a 2021 recruiting class that was the highest ranked in Oregon history. It ranked 6th in the country. And NIL was not a thing in those days of, 2.5 years ago. It wasn't this major part. It wasn't all legal and whatnot. And to pretend like big time schools haven't been, giving kids money under the table for a long time is just silly and just complete and utter nonsense anyway. So if NIL were a factor, which it is, Oregon would be succeeding, and they are. And if it weren't a factor, they'd still be succeeding on the trail because this staff puts in the work. There's no talent base in the state of Oregon. They have to go outside, and they do it really, really well. And it's just a really, really good recruiting staff.
The national landscape of college football recruiting success has undergone little change. It's the same players at the top that it was pre-NIL, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. Now, if you take Oregon, maybe they've elevated from top 8 to 12 or 15 status more into the top 5 on what appears that it's going to be a regular basis. But those fluctuations happen as schools become more committed, as they change coaches, and those coaches are better or worse. It's not like we've seen Louisville fly from 35 in the nation to number 2. We haven't seen anything like we saw with Ole Miss 10 or 12 years ago with Hugh Freeze at the controls, and then we found out, okay, there's a reason for this. No, the power structure of the recruiting process is pretty much what it's always been in recent college football.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point about the same teams are at the top in the NIL era. When NIL and the portal came out at the same time, everyone always kind of coupled them together. Oh, there are these big, massive changes. And the way I talked about it at the time is, NIL will make an impact, on a player or two. More than that. But it's a very, very small minority of players that are actually getting any significant amount of NIL dollars. It's not a huge figure. The more impactful element of college football that was changing, I said, was the transfer portal. And I think I have been proven incredibly right on that front, because the way that talent disperses and the way that players move, and now you can transfer an unlimited number of times, that is more impactful on the landscape of talent acquisition than is NIL. Because most of the time, I think with a lot of these kids, you're just seeing a public or more public, because, NIL collectives don't have to disclose, how much they're paying each and every kid. So we don't know all the figures all the time. But I think you're just seeing a more public version of what was already happening. Bryce Young went to Alabama before NIL was legal. Do you think he got $0 to go there? Do you think other schools offered him $0? I'm not even saying that bothers me, because it's just so well documented at this point that big time programs been paying kids for a long time. You think Zion Williamson got $0 to go to Duke? Like, no, it's a ridiculous assertion. So you can say that it has amplified and helped to widen the gap between the haves and have-nots. I'll agree with that sentiment. To say that it is driving, that it's the primary driver of the gap, no, I think it's just an accelerant on what the landscape already was, how it shook out, and Oregon is adapting to, be a team and be a program that people want to go and play for and know they can get those sorts of opportunities.
All right. As a bit of a fall camp preview, Spencer, so we know your next few weeks are wild and crazy, and you'll be all over the place since we've got you tracked down here. And, of course, the teams get to the field here in about 3 weeks. Let's start with the Oregon offense, which should be fun to watch unless you're an opponent. Loaded across the board. Tez Johnson, I consider to be the best. Big Ten fans are not used to looking at wide receiver rankings and seeing anybody placed ahead of Ohio State or any particular players placed ahead of Ohio State. But hey, I had the same analysis at wide receiver. Let's start here. Dillon Gabriel, Bo Nix. Make the comparison there. Do we, except for right-handed and left-handed, we're looking at decent enough arms, not elite arms, guys that are mobile, get out of the pocket, can extend the play. Seem like pretty similar quarterbacks, obviously, with a ton of experience as well.
I think there are similarities. I do think there are differences. I do not believe that Dillon Gabriel has the same upward potential that Bo Nix does. I mean, Bo Nix just had arguably the best statistical season in Oregon football history. I know Mariota won the Heisman. That's because Oregon won the Pac-12 and was going to the playoff. If Oregon beats Washington in the Pac-12 title game, Bo Nix wins the Heisman. So, he just put together that season. And sometimes I get pushback from Oregon fans when I say, yeah, I don't think he's as good as Bo Nix. I don't think he's going to have the same season, because it sounds like I'm knocking him. I just am looking at Dillon Gabriel and saying, can he be the same guy he was last year? Close to 70% completion. He could probably be over 70%. Bo Nix was each of the last 2 years in Oregon's offense. Can he be 70%? Can he go for somewhere around 4,000 yards and 30 to 35 touchdowns and keep the interceptions down? Because if so, that makes Oregon a national championship contender. I mean, they went to a national championship game with Marcus Mariota. They also went there with Darren Thomas, who was nothing anywhere close to a Heisman finalist or contender, was just a good quarterback. And I think that's kind of how I view Dillon Gabriel, is he's a good quarterback. And I think there are point guard, ball distributor similarities between the two guys. Gabriel is smaller. I don't think he quite has the arm that Bo Nix has. Both are mobile. I think Nix is a slightly better athlete and certainly is a harder guy to bring down in the pocket because he's much bigger than bigger than Dillon Gabriel, who is a small guy, which doesn't mean he can't be good. We've seen him play over the course of his career. He's a good football player. But I think that for Oregon, the rest of the team around him has to be better than they were a year ago. Because Bo Nix, would have games where he'd go for 300 and then 400 and 350. And I don't expect Dillon Gabriel to do that. I think the defense sometimes might have to do a little bit more, though they were great last season. And I think the running game will have to be consistently there. And it was for the most part a year ago. But I just don't expect Gabriel to have a bunch of 350 plus or 400 plus yard games. I think if you look up at the end of the year and say, yeah, he averaged throwing for 280 to 290 yards a game, and he threw 35 touchdowns and 7 picks and completed high 60s, low 70s in terms of his completion percentage, I think that's all Oregon needs to contend for a Big Ten championship.
So, Spencer, if this offense is not exceptional, they're going to put up yards and points at some rate in the top 10 or 15 in the nation, but we expect even better than that. So if they don't turn out to be exceptional, is that because they ran into a better defensive league, or a combination, aside from injuries? The injury bug can wreck anybody's season. That it's that, and or that the offensive line, despite these high rankings leading into this season, did have a lot of turnover, key players leaving, that the offensive line isn't quite ready to take on the best of the Big Ten?
I think it's more likely to be that they're going up against better defenses, but also teams with a different play style. Think about Oregon matchups with Stanford over the years, or really back in the 2010s. So in 2012, one of the most unfortunate losses in Oregon football history that cost them a chance to play for a national championship was at home against Stanford. Final score of that game, 17-14. And that offense had Marcus Mariota, had DeAnthony Thomas, had Kenyon Barner, and it was Chip Kelly at his peak as the head coach and play caller. And what was one of the ways that you slowed down that Oregon offense? Took the air out of the ball on your side. And I think you look at a lot of teams in the Big Ten, you don't have dynamic quarterback play. I think of the Power Four conferences, the Big Ten is the weakest at quarterback, and I don't know that it's particularly close. You have got so many questions. Yeah, there are talented young guys like Dylan Raiola at Nebraska, or Drew Aller at Penn State, who I think is better than people give him credit for. But The other Power Four leagues go 7, 8 deep at quarterback, where you say, oh, those are above average guys. You go up and down the Big Ten, you're like, okay, Dylan Gabriel is above average, and Will Howard, he's maybe slightly above average at Ohio State. I don't know who's starting for Michigan, so I don't know what he can bring to the table since I don't know who he is. It's probably Alex Orji, I think, maybe. I don't know. They don't know either. They haven't said anything. And Dylan Raiola, I think, can be good at Nebraska. Hasn't actually taken a snap in a college football game yet. Drew Aller at Penn State is good. And then you just go down the list. You're like, well, Miller Moss played one game while at USC. Ethan Garbers at UCLA, pretty average. Will Rogers at Washington, frankly, is probably higher on the list than people realize because he's just experienced and good. So I think you're going to have more teams that want to run the football, that want to take the air out of it, that want to, kill the clock and keep the Oregon offense on the sideline. But if you can't move the ball in Oregon's defense, which I think is going to be a challenge for a lot of these teams that are offensively challenged in the Big Ten, it's going to result in a lot of games that, we've seen over the years with Michigan, Ohio State, when they play middle to bottom tier teams in the Big Ten, where you look up, you're like, oh, wow, it's 49-10. Like if your defense, no matter how good it is on the field all the time, you're going to get tired. I think that happened to Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. I think their offense's inability to get a first down on either of its first two possessions killed the defense because they're, working and getting off the field, and then the offense goes 3 and out twice. Like that impacts the defense's ability to play at a high level. So yeah, I think they're going to go up against better defenses. I don't think their quarterback play is going to be quite as good, though it'll still be above average and probably the best in the Big Ten. I think, last year Oregon averaged about 44.5 points a game, 530 yards. This year it'll probably be like 38 points a game and 480 yards, and that's more than enough.
And maybe one of the more intriguing road tasks for Oregon goes into the category of what you're talking about when they go to Camp Randall Stadium, take on a Tyler Van Dyke team where he's a complete wild card.
Yeah,
who knows what he's going to bring to the table. If it's 2021, then he's a top quarterback, but most likely they've got a lot of issues to fix with him. So as you look at the offense, there are no personnel concerns.
No, I don't have any personnel concerns offensively. I don't really have any on defense either, other than safety. I don't know if Oregon's safety room, that's probably going to be the relatively weakest unit. Then they have an all Big 12 conference transfer in Kobe Savage, who's likely going to be the starting free safety in there. That's the unit that concerns me the most because I think what they're plan appears to be, at least when I look at the Oregon projected depth chart that I talk about on my show, I think you have Kobe Savage starting as your field safety, and your boundary safety is Tysheem Johnson. And Tysheem Johnson has not been great in coverage the last couple of years when he is asked to cover deep in space, down around the line of scrimmage. He can be really, really good. He's a great blitzer. He's a great tackler. He can cover inside the first down marker. But once you put him, on receivers and ask him to cover, he struggled all of last season for the most part. So I think for Oregon, that's the biggest weakness I look at. But I mean, offensively, you've got an NFL caliber guy in Terrence Ferguson, someone who could maybe make an NFL roster in Patrick Herbert, but was a former 4-star recruit. You've got a true sophomore in Kenyon Sadiq that is poised to make a big, big leap and is a mega talent at tight end. You're going to have one of the best offensive lines in the Big Ten. You have maybe the best receiving core in all of college football, dynamic running back tandem, and the best quarterback on paper going into this year in the entire Big Ten. So I don't have any questions or reservations about Oregon's offense. I think just kind of the nature of this move to the Big Ten might have their numbers come down a little bit, but I don't expect their record to suffer as a result.
So the same analysis about the offense adjusting to a new league could be applied to the defense to a certain extent if they've got teams that are ramming the ball between the tackles and you've got an interior defensive line that has questions.
Well, I think they answer those questions in the transfer portal. You bring in Derek Harmon from Michigan State, who was their best, probably overall defensive player a season ago for the last couple of years. Quite frankly, he's been really, really good. You bring in Jamari Caldwell from Houston, who was an all Big 12 selection, and those are your starting defensive tackles because you lost your 4 defensive tackles from a year ago. Brandon Dorlus, Popo Amavai, Casey Rogers, Taki Taimani. Those are the top 4. They're gone. So you bring in 2. Now the question is, who are the next 2? And it could be, a veteran like Keon Ware-Hudson, who is a solid, capable player, but there is a crop of young blue chip prospects that are ready to contribute. They're mostly redshirt freshmen. There's a true freshman, Aiden Breland, who's a 5-star out of Mater Dei. I think he lost the star ranking, but whatever. He's a big-time defensive tackle out of Mater Dei High School, which is a powerhouse in the state of California. He could make an impact as a true freshman. They've got plenty of beef, plenty of depth along the defensive line. I love the interior, and I love the edge spots as well. You have Jordan Birch on one side, the former 5-star recruit who transferred in from South Carolina last year. And then on the other side, you've got a trio of true sophomores who all played starter snaps as true freshmen. Tatum Tuioti, Blake Purchase, Mateo Uyunglele. They all came in together. They all played a key role, and I think can make a big jump forward this year collectively and give Oregon a dynamic pass rush. So you have high-end starters on the interior. You've got depth and talent and experience on the edge. I think this is the best Oregon defensive line we have seen since the 2014 group that had DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead on it.
So, Spencer, while I'm pushing you on possible concerns on either side of the ball, and you're not relenting much, Big Ten fans are going to have to get used to this football team and familiar with them. So the linebackers are not a concern, but just highlight how good and athletic these guys are.
Yeah, Jeffrey Bassa, second team All Pac-12 last year, and then Justin Jacobs, I think, provides one of the other legitimate question marks on the Oregon defense is how prepared is Oregon to sustain a potential injury there? Because he's had injuries in his career. He didn't play until the Washington State game a year ago. We didn't see him over the first half of the season. Then when he was on the field, he made an impact. And he's, that Wazoo game in particular might have been the best he played all year. He had a sack and was making tackles and big hits. He had a really, really productive game. The guy behind him is Devin Jackson, who is a third-year former 4-star linebacker that coaches say is maybe the best overall athlete, might be the fastest individual player on the team. So that, again, makes me feel pretty darn good. Now, Oregon runs a 4 to 5 linebacker rotation based on their snap counts from a season ago. So can they get the same sort of production from a guy like Bryce Betcher, who's a baseball standout and might be drafted in the MLB draft and playing minor league baseball here in the next few weeks? Do they have guys that are ready to contribute? But at the high end, yeah, I've got no concerns. Bassa is a stud. I think can raise his NFL draft stock this year. And Justin Jacobs, if healthy, was a former 4-star and one-time Iowa defensive player. And if you're good enough to play defense at Iowa, you can play defense anywhere.
Absolutely. Spencer McLaughlin, Locked On Ducks, Locked On College Football. Please check out his work right there. We always appreciate Spencer dropping by. And before we let you go, the realignment talks continue across the nation in regards to where are we getting our clues and indicators. Of course, Clemson and Florida State are 90% out the door. Once the bad blood gets to the point where you're in court, I think there's no question there. So what indicators are out there that you think lean you in one way or the other in regards to Miami, North Carolina, Virginia, some other schools in play for the ACC, whether they can make their way to the SEC or the Big Ten, or the Big 12 is going to receive the overflow from the ACC? What do you think we're looking at right now?
I think most likely FSU and Clemson get out for a couple $100 million each. They pay the ACC, they lick their wounds financially, they leave, they figure out the money, and they probably wind up in the Big Ten. I don't know. That's you can debate either side, but they would not. I see this comment on my shows all the time. They don't have anywhere to go. No one's taking them. They are not going through this process if they don't have a really, really solid foundational belief that they are going to get into the Big Ten or SEC. And I don't think Florida State and Clemson are just going to be disregarded, tossed aside. Like if I just no way. I do not see that being a scenario. What I do think, and I talked about this on today's show, Monday's show of Locked On College Football, if those two schools leave, and nobody else jumps, I see no reason why the ACC cannot survive. Because at the very least, you can argue, the Big 12 is better, it's deeper. But you can't argue in good faith that the gap is the Grand Canyon. And there's just this massive hole. Like if the Big 12 is surviving, then the ACC can survive as long as no one else jumps. And I think North Carolina is the key. Miami is important. I don't think that, a Virginia is drawing that much attention because they don't have a big athletics profile right now. I think you're going to see Florida State and Clemson jump. I think they'll still be in the ACC come 2025. By 26, they'll be gone. The Pac-12 will be realigned into something. I don't know. Well, I have ideas, of course. But then those two schools will leave, and I think then it'll settle down for 5 years or so. For like 3 to 5 years, and then everything will start shifting again once media rights deals get close to expiring in the early 2030s.
And maybe the ACC goes the way of the Big 12 and tries to fortify itself with.
Well, I think that's what they did with
Memphis.
I wouldn't think so. I think they've already got their additions with Stanford, Cal, and SMU, and that's one of the reasons why I find SMU to be the most interesting team. If they succeed quickly in the ACC, that is going to ensure the ACC's survival, because from a competitive standpoint, they'll say, hey, if we've got this team that can come in year one, win 9 games as a member of the ACC, what are they going to do in year 2? What are they going to do in year 3? This is Dallas. It's a major recruiting foothold. You've got a lot of money and investment over there from the administration. I think that is why SMU plays such a major role, more than people realize. And I have no hope for Stanford and Cal of making such a quick change because they're just not suited to do that. They could be solid teams, but they're not as important as SMU.
Spencer, best places for people to be able to find you.
I'm on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, hosting Locked On Ducks and Locked On College Football, and I am on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @SMcLaughlinCFB. Shoot me a mention anytime or a message. My DMs are open, and you can tell me you think that I'm great or that I suck, and I'll smile either way.
We always look forward to it, Spencer, and know that your schedule is going to ramp up here very soon.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Where we know it.
Yeah, lots of. I'll be at SEC Media Days, then planning to be at Big Ten Media Days if they ever write us back about our credentials and whatnot. Maybe they don't want people to cover the conference. I don't know, but that's the game plan for the next couple of weeks. So I'll be all over the country. If you see me out there, just come say hi.
They don't want people from that left coast to be covering the conference. Maybe
I don't know. No one's heard.
Out of it.
No one has heard anything about the Big Ten media day stuff, and it's in a couple weeks.
Yeah, well, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah,
Spencer, appreciate it, man. Have a good day.
Great to talk to you, Mark. Thank you.